things can really start to add up. For example, Deutsche Bank got nailed just in December for a totally different thing. Deutsche Bank got nailed in December by the feds for their shady, illegal mortgage practices that led up to the financial collapse in this country. And the fine there, in the deal with the feds, was not some millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars or even hundreds of millions of dollars. Their fine there was a $7 billion fine, billion with a B. That was for their mortgage scheme. On that Russian money laundering scheme that Deutsche Bank already got caught for, the state part of it might be settled for $630 million, but the federal case is still open, still being pursued by the feds. And you know who's been pursuing the federal case against Deutsche Bank? Preet Bharara, who was just fired as the federal prosecutor in New York when the Trump Justice Department moved suddenly and without warning to remove all the U.S. attorneys around the country on Friday, including Preet Bharara, even though both President Trump himself and Attorney General Jeff Sessions himself had previously told Preet Bharara he could stay on the job. And we reported on Friday night, you know, that other presidents have replaced lots of U.S. attorneys or all the U.S. attorneys before. But nobody has ever fired all the U.S. attorneys the way the Trump folks did on Friday night. Called them in the afternoon on Friday, told all the U.S. attorneys, all without warning, that they were all fired immediately. They needed their desks cleaned out and they needed their keys turned in by midnight. Get out. It's never happened like that before. Why the rush?
Why the rushing?
And why Preet Bharara? Why is he included after you'd given him a personal assurance that he was staying on? That federal investigation into Russian money laundering by Deutsche Bank, that's one of any number of open investigations in the Justice Department that has just had a wrench thrown in those works by those sudden firings of all the U.S. attorneys on Friday. But looking at the Preet Bharara firing, looking at this shock to the justice system that the Trump administration just levied, Deutsche Bank is a particularly sensitive subject. Deutsche Bank is a particularly sensitive subject of investigation for this president for a couple of reasons. First of all, the former chairman of Deutsche Bank, he left in the middle of all this scandal at his bank. He ended up landing very softly, though, at the Bank of Cyprus. Bank of Cyprus is itself a bank that has been in lots of hot water for Russian money laundering accusations. The Deutsche Bank chairman was installed as chairman of the Bank of Cyprus by the major shareholders of the Bank of Cyprus. Major shareholders of the Bank of Cyprus include this Russian oligarch. They call him the king of fertilizer. He's now becoming famous in this country for having inexplicably paid Donald Trump $95 million for a single house. It's the single largest price ever paid for a house in the United States. He paid Donald Trump $95 million for that property, even though Trump himself had only paid $41 million for it a few years earlier. Why did a Russian oligarch pay Donald Trump over $50 million over and above what Trump had paid for that property? We still don't know. The king of fertilizer reportedly never set foot in the property. He certainly never lived there. He has since torn it down, but Donald Trump pocketed over $50 million in that one sale with that Russian oligarch, who's a major shareholder in the Bank of Cyprus, which has been done and held up on Russian money laundering allegations over the years. And now, in terms of the Bank of Cyprus, there is one American who is involved in that bank. The one American who is a major shareholder of the Bank of Cyprus, and until recently was its vice chairman, is our new Commerce Secretary, longtime Donald Trump friend Wilbur Ross. So the Deutsche Bank chairman landing there with the guy who inexplicably gave Donald Trump $50 million and Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary, that makes Deutsche Bank a little bit of a sensitive subject. The other reason Deutsche Bank is a sensitive subject for federal investigation at this point is because the president himself owes more money to Deutsche Bank than any other single lender in the world. President Trump is in hock to Deutsche Bank to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Deutsche Bank is the largest known lender to Trump's businesses. So summarily removing the prosecutor going after Deutsche Bank, that has personal implications for this president. But that's not all, because it's not just him, it's his family. This is the Waldorf Astoria. It's a big, fancy, stately hotel in New York City, emphasis on